let's dive into one of the most profound and baffling mysteries of our time. It's a story that, even now, years later, just seems to defy any logical explanation. We're talking about the vanishing of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. Here's the core fact, and it is just as chilling today as it was then. One minute, you have a state-of-the-art passenger jet on a totally routine flight, and the next, it's gone. 239 people just vanished from the sky. So, to even begin to understand what might have gone wrong, we have to go back to when everything was still perfectly normal. Let's look at the flight's final, ordinary moments before it just disappeared into thin air. I mean, think about how routine this all sounds. At 12:41 a.m., a standard takeoff, everything going exactly as planned. Then, at 1:19 a.m., you get that last calm voice communication. And just 2 minutes later, poof, it's gone from civilian radar. The speed of that change, from perfectly okay to completely gone, is just staggering. And this right here, this is the last human voice ever heard from that plane. There was no stress in it, no alarm, absolutely no sign that anything was wrong. It's just this casual, professional sign-off that has become one of the most haunting phrases in history. And that's the key. For the air traffic controllers on the ground, the plane just stopped existing. 1 second, it's a blip on their screen, and the next, there's just empty space. The finality of it, from their perspective, was absolute. But here's the thing. The plane wasn't really gone. It had just gone dark. It entered this new, silent phase of its journey. And this, right here, is where the story takes its most bizarre turn. This was the question that stumped the entire world, right? A 200-ton aircraft doesn't just disappear. With its main transponder apparently switched off, investigators had to start piecing together clues from systems that were never even designed to track a plane in the first place. And here it is, the first major clue. The flight path didn't just end, it changed course, dramatically. The plane turned back on itself, flying in a completely different direction. You know, that doesn't just happen by accident. That had to be a deliberate action. Okay, so this is where the story gets even stranger. While civilian radar saw the plane just vanish, military radar, which works differently, saw something else entirely. They tracked an unidentified aircraft, which we now know was MH370, as it turned and just kept flying for hours out over the ocean. It's like the two systems were telling completely different stories. So with the transponder and all the other communication systems off, there was one last tiny thread. A satellite data unit on the plane kept sending these automated hourly handshakes to a satellite way up in orbit. By analyzing the timing of these incredibly faint pings, investigators could calculate a huge arc of possible locations, and that arc pointed them toward the remote southern Indian Ocean. And that single clue, these little satellite pings, is what kicked off one of the largest and most expensive search efforts in human history. Now, to really get the challenge here, you have to understand the location. We're not talking about a coastal area. This is one of the most inhospitable, uncharted places on Earth. Seriously, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about some parts of this ocean floor. One of the investigators put it perfectly, I think. It was like looking for a needle in, not a haystack, but an endless desert of water. It just perfectly captures the sheer impossibility of what they were trying to do. And you know what? They did find something, not from that deep-sea search, but carried all the way across the ocean by currents. Pieces of the plane, like a flaperon, started washing up on coastlines thousands of miles away. This confirmed, tragically, that the plane had crashed. But it didn't tell them where, or why. So, after all this time, all this searching and finding these few fragments, where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with the core mystery still completely intact. Look, the crucial point is this. Everything we need to actually solve the case is still lost. The black boxes, which have the final cockpit conversations and all the flight data, they're missing. The main wreckage, a definitive crash site, never been found. And without any of that, the biggest question of all, the why, remains a total mystery. And that's really the legacy of MH370. It's this giant puzzle, but we only have a handful of the pieces. We've got a fragment of a wing, a few satellite pings, and that final, chilling good night. But there's nothing that forms a complete picture. And you know, that is not an exaggeration. In our modern age of constant tracking and connectivity, the very idea that a huge modern airliner could just fly away and vanish is what makes this story so enduring and so deeply unsettling. And that's the question we're all left with, isn't it? For the families of the 239 people on board, the answers are still out there, somewhere in that vast, silent darkness. And for now, it seems the truth will remain lost in the deep.